Hey everyone, this is Erica Lucas, your host and founding member of VEST, an organization connecting women across industries, regions, and career levels, so that together we can expedite the pipeline of more women in positions of power and influence. Welcome to another episode of the Vester podcast, where we explore the invisible barriers holding women back in the workplace and share stories of women building power collectively.
Everybody thinks it's easier to do it themselves. And we hear that over and over and over again. It's just easier if I do it myself. How do I know that this person is going to do it better than I am? And our answer to that is that, yes, it is easier for you to do it yourself for a short period of time. You've been doing whatever the tasks are for a really long time. You also know yourself inherently well. Your assistant, or the idea of an assistant, they're not there yet. But if you give them time, and I can go over lots of tips and tricks on this call on how to get there, and mainly it's trust building and consistency, you will then start to be able to delegate things, and they will be able to do it better than you have done
it. Companies don't scale unless we take the time to delegate. And we also know that teams don't grow unless we give them the opportunity to take on challenging projects. But even when we know that delegating leads to productivity and developing employees, it's often hard to do because it requires us to trust others. And trust doesn't come naturally to everyone. It's also hard to build trust when you're already overwhelmed. To help us understand why delegating is so hard, we invited Valerie Riley, CEO of LifeSquire, an assistance resource company offering job placements, outsourced personal and virtual assistants, as well as assistant training. Join us as we talk to Valerie about how we can get better at trusting others and ourselves as we grow our companies and learn to let go of control. Special thanks to VEST member Jennifer Lauren, Executive Director of the Cherokee Film Office, for moderating this session. For Valerie and Jennifer's full bio, as well as show notes, go to www.vesther.co/podcast. This recording was part of a more intimate coaching session with VEST members and has been repurposed to accommodate this episode.
Hello, everyone. As we say in Cherokee, Osio, everyone. I'm Jennifer Lauren. I am the director of the Cherokee Nation Film Office and Original Content. I love being a member of VEST. Like Erica said, I find it very therapeutic. I try to join every single Zoom and in-person meeting that I can, which I can't ever attend all of them, but the ones I do, I always come away feeling like I've learned a great deal and just feel very reassured about, my position as a female leader in my job and in the Cherokee Nation and in Oklahoma. And I just look forward to hearing from all of you all. I was really excited when they asked me to moderate this panel with Valerie Riley of LifeSquire. I think that every single one of you will probably relate to a lot of the things that Valerie will be talking to us about. Probably everyone here has dealt with, should I delegate this? Should I not? When should I? When should I not? How do I do it? And I'm really looking forward to hear what Valerie has to say about that. So Valerie, before we get into the Q&A, I'd like to give you some time to go ahead and introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about LifeSquire.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me. I am also a really proud member of VEST. I was sharing with Erica a little bit earlier that it's a very unique platform and incredibly encouraging and welcoming of women in power. And I think what a great thing to have in Oklahoma City. So very thankful to be here and getting to share my little area of expertise. I'll share with you my background of LifeSquire. I have two other ventures, but I won't go into that for the purpose of this conversation. I'm originally from California and San Francisco, Bay Area. And when I was about 24, I worked at a .com. So that shows my age. They're not called .coms anymore, but it was back then. And I worked in investor relations and really loved it. But then, of course, the dot-com bubble burst and I needed to do something different. And so I decided, well, I'm going to move to Dallas, which is a little glimpse into my crazy personality. It's like I knew nobody in Dallas, but I thought, why not? So me and my best friend moved to Dallas, looked for a job in investor relations. And this was in like the year 2000. So it really didn't exist there like it does now. It was a much different culture. And I took a job as an assistant, mainly because I needed money and work, and thought, oh, well, I'll just do this for a year because honestly, I thought it was beneath me, which is so embarrassing to think about that now. But I did at the time. And so I thought, I'm going to do this for a year, see what happens. And I honestly fell in love with the work. Realized that I'm a caretaker by nature. It's definitely part of my DNA. Stayed at that job for 8 years. And when my boss retired, that's when I decided to start my own business. Started it in Dallas, moved to Oklahoma City, and the rest is kind of history, which makes it sound so pretty and not at all bumpy. It was extremely bumpy, and it's been 12 years, and that's just all the high points.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. So you've already sort of touched on this, but I'd like for you to talk a little bit more about it. LifeSquire in particular, where did that idea come from?
Yeah, so it originated because I was an assistant and realized that when you're an executive assistant, particularly working one-on-one with a boss, you're often isolated from the rest of the company. You have a lot of access to the owner or the CEO or the C-suite executive. And so it creates a very lonely experience. And so I thought, if I go out on my own and do this, I want to create an environment where assistants feel empowered, where they feel like they have a group of people supporting them, and whatever that kind of looks like. So that was kind of the impetus of the start of the journey. When it started, it was just a personal assistant service. So outsourced kind of errand running, grocery shopping, taking the kiddo to pick up their soccer league stuff, that kind of stuff. And it's evolved over time to be also job placement and training so that we really can fully touch every area that the assistant is in and help them honestly be proud about their work and not feel as isolated.
So you launched LifeSquire very early when the idea of virtual assistants didn't even exist or wasn't as popular as it is now. So can you tell us about the early days of the company and how did you get people to buy into what it is LifeSquire is selling?
Yeah, I really love that question because the early days were really difficult. I decided to launch it fully in Oklahoma City. And mind you, this is 12 years ago. So like you said, the assistant dynamic here was very different. People didn't understand what an assistant would do for them personally, especially. And so we really struggled to honestly add education to what we were providing to people. And I would say the first 4 or 5 years, which is a crazy long time, were really, really tough. Like I'm eating ramen again, like I'm in college, and going to sleep early because I'm like, how do I pay? I'll just go to bed, which is just wild to think about now. But that is the truth of the story, because I knew and I could see that there would be a wave coming where people needed this kind of service. And I didn't want to be chasing after people that were already in this space. I wanted to be leading the space. And so getting people to buy in, honestly, was just time, just was consistency and perseverance and just continuing to show up over and over again as my full authentic self. Like I am the same in this room as I am with my employees, as I am at home with my dogs. So just showing up very authentically. And I think you can't fake that. And people kind of started understanding like, oh, she really does want to help us.
So just backing up a little bit, LifeSquire is, you can go to lifesquire.com and you can help your LifeSquire company helps people find executive assistants, personal assistants, and virtual assistants.
Yeah, so we say that we are an assistant resource center, outsourcing, training, and supporting. So one side of our business is called LifeSquire Direct, and that services for now just Oklahoma City, where you buy a package and we help you on an outsourced basis. So we retain those employees here. There are W-2 employees. Then we offer job placement, which is like if you're needing a full-time executive assistant or personal assistant or any kind of combination of those things, we provide the job placement recruiting and placement process. And then lastly, we have something called LifeSquire Academy, and anybody can send anybody in a support role through that. You don't have to be associated with LifeSquire in any way. You can just send somebody through the program, either online or individual one-on-one.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Yeah, yes. But so important. So our topic of the month is delegating. Easy to say, we all get the benefits, right? But in your opinion and experience placing assistants, why is it so hard to implement and then stick to it?
So the thing that I'm going to say is going to resonate, I think, with 95% of the people on this panel. And the ones that don't, I'd love to talk to you how you got to the opposite thought here. Everybody thinks it's easier to do it themselves. And we hear that over and over and over again. It's just easier if I do it myself. How do I know that this person is going to do it better than I am? And our answer to that is that, yes, it is easier for you to do it yourself for a short period of time. You've been doing whatever the tasks are for a really long time. You also know yourself inherently well. Your assistant, or the idea of an assistant, they're not there yet. But if you give them time, and I can go over lots of tips and tricks on this call on how to get there, and mainly it's trust building and consistency, you will then start to be able to delegate things, and they will be able to do it better than you have done it. So you've just got to give a grace period there mentally for yourself, and a grace period for that assistant to kind of get to know your needs and your desires and how you like things done. And then eventually the tipping point will come, and it will no longer be easier for you to do it yourself.
So if you can kind of walk us through that process. So how do you position your clients so they can learn how to successfully delegate? What's that process like?
Yeah, it's pretty intense. But we just say, if you'll stick with it and you will trust us, trust our process, trust that we have your best interests at heart. And if you'll do these things, we promise you the end result will be worth it. So in the beginning, it's time. There's just no replacement for time spent with your assistant, or honestly, any of your employees that are in any kind of support role. And we recommend, especially in the beginning of the relationship, a weekly cadence of a meeting time. It doesn't have to be long. It could be 5 minutes a day. It could be 30 minutes once a week. No less than once a week. But in the beginning, if you could touch base with your assistant in the beginning of the day, 5 minutes every day at the same time, stick with that appointment like your life depends on it. So we say, don't cancel on your assistant. Don't show up late to that appointment. Honor that time. And during that time, if you have an assistant that is good at their job, this is a really great time for them to ask you, what are your priorities for the day? How is your day framed, and where can I add value for you? So having just a quick touch point every day. And then as that time is happening over and over and over, you're building trust. You're also building rapport. And the more you can stay consistent with that dynamic and that time frame, the better your rapport will be, which then equates to more trust in your assistant, which then equates to giving them more and more and more to do. We have lots of different tools I can give you guys. I'll give them to you later in the call, but also if you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to email you some of this stuff too. There's lots of kind of PDFs you can use to help you understand what to delegate. There are lots of books you can read and things like that. But really the most important part is that time, making sure you have a rhythm at least weekly with your assistant. And I would say that even if your assistant's been with you 5 years, still keep that weekly commitment, because it's a really good time to check in. Just continuing to check in and touching base is really important.
So letting go of control is one of the top reasons that people do not delegate. So how do you and the assistants that you work with deal with maybe difficult or control freak people and clients?
So if we didn't work with controlling clients, we wouldn't have a business. Most of our clients are controlling. And I will tell you a very fascinating study that we've done, and take this for what you want. Women have a much harder time letting go of control than men. Our female clients, I mean, man, are they in our business? They are micromanaging because they're worried. They're worried that it's not going to be done as well as they've done it. Men do not have this issue. And so what we often tell our female clients particularly is that we cannot be the best CEO of the company that you're running for you. That is fully on you. You own that. We cannot be a better mother than you. You own that space. We can't be a better daughter. There's all kinds of labels that we have, but we can take your emails off your plate. And this way you get to fully step into what you were created to do. And then you don't have to worry about the details of things. So yes, there is a power struggle for sure in the beginning. But again, and I just particularly speak to women about this because men just don't tend to struggle with this area of trust. Women just don't trust that things are going to be done well unless they have major oversight of it. And that's just not true. I mean, there are lots of things that you delegate now that you just haven't recognized as delegation. So as an example, anybody use Shipt for groceries? Anybody use a lawn care service? Anybody use a house cleaner? There's all kinds of things you're already delegating that you just don't recognize as delegation because it's so ingrained in who you are. This is just the next step there. And honestly, the best step.
Several people in the chat saying, that's me. I'm one of those people. But I just wanted to bounce another question off you based off of your answer there. And that was that you said, let us take your emails for you. So what does that look like? For instance, do they just like take over your email, or is that something where they sit with you in a room and you just tell them what to write? Or is that something that you negotiate?
It's a process, like everything. And again, you're going to hear me say it 1,000 times. It takes time. But the way that we like to set it up is yes, schedule. So I'll just tell you our full process for like, say, our virtual assistant clients, when they want to release their emails, because that's a huge pain point for a lot of people. We get hundreds and hundreds of emails a day, and it's overwhelming. And the whole idea of inbox zero seems so elusive. So we often meet people in that stress place. Honestly, everybody that comes to us is stressed out. So we always say, like, don't apologize. We're specializing in stressed out people. But to offload your email, you want to have at least a good long hour conversation with your assistant. Could be over Zoom. And for our virtual clients, it often is honestly over Zoom. But a face-to-face is really important, not over the phone, not over email, face-to-face, so they can read body language. You can acknowledge the eye contact and all of those things. And you kind of want to start with, what are your goals? Is it that you just want to make sure that you're unsubscribed from all the ridiculous lists that you're on? That's an easy goal to tackle, and it needs zero oversight on your part. Is it that your goal is you don't want to answer a single email ever? We have clients like that. Okay, well then let's set up a trickle effect of, say, the next 6 weeks, we're going to take all of the emails that come in. So we've got a lot of clients that own several businesses and are on several boards, just like you guys. And so maybe we just start with your board obligations. We start taking over those emails. And the way that we take them over is, in the beginning, we copy you on every response, unless we are not, sorry, I get so distracted by the chat. I'm like, have bad ADD. Just fully disclosure, bad ADD. I think I'm in good company. So what was I saying? Emails. Okay, yeah. So if you want them to respond from your inbox, just create a dummy email address that then you can blind copy, and that way that they can blind copy. So that way, when they're responding on your behalf, you're still seeing it until you feel like you can start letting go of control. And so it just takes time. And like I said, just setting up steps week after week of what you can let go of more and more and more. And the fact is that after a certain point, because you've developed that trust and that relationship, you're not even going to think about it anymore. It's just putting in the immense amount of time in the beginning to really get on the same page with your voice, your tone, the response time, all of those things. Just setting the expectations up front is really important.
Great. We're already getting questions as you see, Valerie, but what I want to do is get through our list of questions first, and then we'll hop back into the chat and ask these questions. You might answer some of these on the way. So, what kind of feedback loop have you created for customers to provide constructive feedback to their assigned assistants so that they can both be successful?
Man, if we love delegating, we love feedback more. Feedback to me is everything. Personally, you do not grow without it. And so we have a really strong culture of feedback. Everybody's read Radical Candor. They've watched the TED Talk about it. There's the Netflix culture book, No Rules, I think is the title. Really great book on feedback loop and radical candor as well. So the way that we do this with our clients is at the end of every week, we have our assistants and we train the assistants we place to say, what's one thing I could have done better for you today? So this way, the executive, the CEO can easily wrap their mind around, oh, it's just one thing. I don't have to think it's so the opposite of that is people say, how can I be doing a better job for you? Well, that's a huge question. And in the moment, really hard to answer. And often you feel guilty because you're like, oh, I really want to say this, but what are they really asking me here? So if they can just say, what's one thing I can be doing better for you? And then immediately take action on that, really important, consistent feedback loop starts to happen. And then we really encourage the executives to do the same. So once your assistant has created this dynamic for you, lean into it and say, hey, as your boss, what's one thing I could be doing better for you? Is there anything that I'm not doing that I should be doing? So you just want to make sure that you are offering feedback, but that you're also open to receiving the feedback. The more you can be open to receiving that feedback and having it be a two-way dialogue, I think the more your assistant will be willing to accept feedback also from you. You have to set the stage as the leader. And if you're uncomfortable accepting feedback, or you get super defensive, or you just never ask the question, likely over time, they are not going to either. So set the stage. How do you want to receive feedback, and then provide it that way?
Oh, hold on. I wanted to show you guys. So all the time during these VEST meetings, somebody will mention a book, and I always download them immediately on my Audible app. So thank you for that No Rules
Yes.
recommendation. I already downloaded it.
It's amazing, life-changing.
Great. Can you share some crazy stories you or the assistants you've worked with have experienced?
So I, full disclosure, got these questions ahead of the call, which was really lovely, and thought a lot about this one. And here's what I'm going to say about this. All of our stories are crazy. We are dealing with very, very busy people. We're often helping, especially in our personal assistant side of the business, with people that are, kind of the 1%ers of the population. So they're very insulated. There's not a lot of access to them, and they have trusted us with that access. And so I don't want to dishonor that dynamic by saying their stories are crazy, which I know is kind of a fun thing to talk about. And honestly, there are lots of those stories. But I think what I want to really say in this space is that we feel so honored that anybody would let us in behind the curtain in any of their crazy dynamics. And everybody has them. We're in people's lives. All of our lives are crazy. All of our lives have parts of it that we wouldn't share with the public. And yet we, as their assistants, get to see those parts. And we think it's beautiful. And we think that it is just a lovely display of humanity. And we get to see people at their rawest. And so I don't want to say that there's crazy stories. I just want to say that they are allowing us into their messy parts of their lives. And we're so thankful for it. So I hope that's okay.
Yes, but let me ask another question based off of that. I think you'll be okay answering, but it seems like that could be a barrier for people as far as letting a personal assistant into their lives, because maybe it's messy, maybe they don't want people to see behind the curtain. So how do you deal with that?
Oh gosh, it's honestly, so we meet people in crisis, and our consultations are like therapy sessions. And I think if somebody has the inkling that I'm overwhelmed and I think the solution could be an assistant, and they reach out to us, they're often not ready to then make the step to hire us. It's just like a fact-finding mission. And they're probably testing us out. Like, can I trust these people? Are they judgmental? We hear all the time, especially when we do in-home consultations, which kind of has changed since COVID. We hear a lot, oh, please don't judge my house. And I just think, oh, you know how you go to the doctor and you say, oh, I'm so embarrassed of my body. I say that anyways. Oh, I gained weight. And I'm like, my doctor doesn't care. Sees bodies all the time. That's what we say. We see people's lives all the time. We aren't at all looking at your story or where you're showing up as a place for us to judge. We look at it as a place, how can we help you? And we're just extremely passionate about that. And all of our employees that are our actual employees, they're all caretaker by nature. And so they desire to step into somebody's life and help. And then the people that we place in full-time roles, same thing, looking for high caretaking, so that they're coming at it from a place of, I want to serve you. I don't care that your life is messy. That's why you hired me. And so, yeah, it does take some trust. And what we always tell people, the very first thing we say when somebody sends us an email submission, because that's usually how it starts, it's not often a phone call, we say, oh my gosh, we're so proud of you for taking this first step. Because asking for help is really difficult, especially for women. We think we're expected to do it all and carry the world on our shoulders. And we're here to tell you that's just not true.
That's a great point. Thanks. Okay, so do you personally struggle with delegating?
No. And here's the thing. I had, not that to say at some point in my life I haven't, but if you were having somebody talk about hair color and they were like, I don't know actually how to do hair color, I'm horrible at it, you would never hire them. So you shouldn't be hiring us if we're bad at delegation. I don't struggle with it because I know where my strengths lie. And this has taken time. I have become extremely self-aware over the years as a leader and employing people. I just think you have to be self-aware or else you're just not a good leader. And because of that self-awareness, I am hyper aware of where I am weak. And I am going to always hold my company back from growth if I don't delegate. Because there are people that can do things way better than I can do them. And I recognize that, and we employ them here. And our company would not be where it is without them, because they add a level of expertise that I just don't have in certain areas. And I just know that if I was to take it all back, the company would never grow. And so it's really, my goal is the company, as we have a 10-year goal. We know where we're headed. And because I know that there are things I'm going to have to do to get there. And one of the big ones is delegating.
Perfect segue into our next question, which is, you're providing services all over the nation now. So what's the most difficult thing about running your company now that you're in this space?
There's a couple of things. One is that I don't know if you guys are familiar with Strength Finders. It's a kind of personality test. I have a strength called Activator. If you're familiar at all, that just means I have a really hard time putting the brakes on any of my ideas. And as you grow and you employ people, you can't be as loosey-goosey with your ideas as you want to be. And so that's one of my struggles, that we're not moving fast enough. That's going to be a lifelong struggle for me. I'm aware of it. So I just have to put in measures to kind of circumvent me being crazy about that. And then the other one that's been really interesting to me, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this or not, but I still feel like the same person that started the business 12 years ago. Like I don't feel like I am any more important. I don't feel like, I just don't have a high ego. And yet a lot of employees are intimidated by me. And I just find that so fascinating. And I am constantly trying to combat that, because I'm like, oh, just come have coffee with me. And they're scared. And I'm like, oh, I'm the same goofy person that has 2 dogs running around in her backyard, like a crazy woman. And so that's been an interesting challenge, just kind of trying to figure out where my lane is in terms of being the CEO and the visionary, setting the pace for the organization, and then also not having as much day-to-day access to my larger group of employees as I used to.
I totally understand that. Yes. Okay, our final question, and then we'll get to everyone else's question. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat. Our final question here is, what are the top 3 things you'd recommend we do to successfully delegate?
I love that you ended this way, because it's let's do some takeaways, you do these talks and it's I can't remember all of these things. So the first thing is something that we have created called a space creator. I will email this to everybody who wants it. My email I'm sure I can provide it at the end in the chat. I put it in earlier. It's Valerie@lifesquire.com. Super easy. But it's called a space creator, and it's an exercise to take you through kind of where your sweet spot is, where you feel like you thrive and you show up as your full self, the things that you procrastinate on, the things that, oh yes, OrthoVest app. Thank you. And the things that they are below your pay grade. So it's a really good exercise to just spend some quiet time, really thinking it through, being very honest with yourself. The other thing we suggest is, in that same vein of self-awareness, spend 5 business days with a list. And every time something pops up for you that you're like, oh, I'll get to that later, or, oh, gosh, that stresses me out when I see this certain name pop up in my inbox, or gosh, I hate doing this task. Write those tasks down. And that is a really, really great starting place for your assistant, if you have one, or if you're thinking about getting one. It's just a kind of a clear picture of everything that's dragging you down. And then I would say the last thing, and this is more philosophical than it is tactical, but I would say trust yourself. If you know that these are things that are keeping you from where you want to go goal-wise, trust that you have the right intuition and you have the right brain power, that when you decided to hire somebody and delegate, that it's going to go well. So think positively. I know that sounds like an old kind of cliche, but I think if you believe that the relationship will work and you believe that you are empowered to delegate, you will get there for sure.
Wonderful. That's great advice. I'm going to start that list.
Good.
I've got a spiral notebook that I keep with me always. I'll just start it there. And I think that's really great, solid advice. Is there anything else you want to add before we get into the other questions, or do you want to hop into those?
No, we can hop in.
Okay.
Oh, as you're doing that, Jennifer, I did think of something.
Okay.
I think that so a lot of people come to us after a bad assistant relationship. Mm-hmm. It didn't go well. It imploded. They weren't happy and they get burned. And so they, are weary of kind of doing it again. And my experience over these years doing nothing else but this is that if the bottom line is that it's expectation and communication management. So set your expectations, be super clear and super honest about those with your assistant, and then communicate. Over communicate until somebody tells you to stop communicating. You've got it. It's just, I think those two things are foundational to the relationship being successful. Great.
Okay. So our first question that I found in the chat kind of maybe will be a precursor to that communication. Sophia says, I'm open to delegating, but know that I don't do it well. Explaining how I would like things done, identifying goals and prioritization. What are your suggestions on getting to that place?
Of feeling comfortable.
Explaining how I would like things done and identifying the goals and then prioritization. I'm assuming to the assistant, how do you convey that to the assistant and then identify what you want to convey to the assistant?
I think this is, this maybe sounds too trivial. And so if you guys want deeper, I'll think it through. This is just like any other relationship. And so how do you talk to your friend? How do you talk to your other employees? The way that you communicate that is the way that you communicate everything else. Don't try to make it something that it isn't. If you are a short communicator, that's okay. Express that to your assistant or whoever you're going to delegate to. Hey, I'm a short communicator, so we may have to have these conversations more often because I don't want to sit and talk for 30 minutes. And then figuring out what your priorities and your goals are, that's an exercise you'll have to do on your own. And I would say over like a good, maybe not a glass of wine because that could get really crazy, but coffee sounds safe. Have some quiet time with yourself, get honest with yourself. There's all kinds of exercises to help you identify what your priorities and your goals are. I think if you have that list that I talked about before, you can easily start to see which one should be rising to the top. Once you have it written down, it becomes very clear. And then the way that you communicate to your assistant is like, here are my lists of priorities for the day. We have one client that ordered, and she does this on her own. we don't have this expectation that everybody does this, but every day her task list, she has it in order of priority. So she calls it P1, P2, P3. And so for her, she knows every day, these are my top 3 or 4 priorities. If you don't get to 2 and 3, that's okay, because the main goal is to get to these first 3. She self-identifies those, and then the way that she communicates is by that little P1, P2, P3. And that is very helpful. Not everybody is able to do that. And so I think the more time you spend with your assistant, they should be able to identify what your top priorities are based on the conversations that you probably have monthly around, like, what do I want to accomplish this month in my company or personally, and then help them or let them help you get there. Did that answer the question? I feel like it was all over the place a little.
I feel like it did.
Okay.
Sophia, do you feel like she answered the question? I don't know if you're still.
Yes, definitely. And I think Jess really hit my question in her last post really well, because I think that's where I feel the stress around the time to train and teach, because I'm just like, my hair is constantly on fire. And so I know I need to do it, but I don't even know how to get to that point to be able to properly delegate.
Yeah, I think that, gosh, that's just so true of so many people. Everybody is, like I said, we meet everybody in the midst of chaos. Nobody plans ahead for an assistant. It's not like, I think I'm going to be really busy in 6 months, I'll hire an assistant now to get ready. It's like, no, we meet you when you're like crazy. And so letting you understand that, yes, it is going to be hard at first. I like expectations. I like to know, say, as when you're in a plane and it starts to become really turbulent, and the pilot will go, hey, we're going to be in turbulence for the next 10 minutes, and then it's going to be fine. I can navigate that mentally. I know the next 10 minutes are going to be really bumpy and I'm probably going to be scared, but then it's going to be fine. We like to communicate that to our clients, and then anybody wanting to delegate. Yeah, maybe for the first 30 days, it's going to be a little rocky, and you're going to have to put in a little extra time, but then can you see beyond the 30 days? Because that time is going to pass anyways. And you can either be spending it working to get to a place where you don't feel overwhelmed, or you can be in the exact same place you are the next 30 days.
That's great to know. Okay, our next question is, do you handle part-time assistants too?
Yes, but handle, like, what do you mean handle? We offer part-time assistants. That's kind of our jam in terms of like the outsourcing piece of it. So our assistants are there are full-time employees, but they're part-time for our clients. And then, yes, if there's a person that has a part-time assistant or wants to have that as their employee, yes, any of it. We do any and all.
Just a follow-up to that, sort of moving forward on that, how does it work as far as paying, through your company? If you're hiring an assistant, you're saying, it's part-time. So how does that work as far as payments?
So if you hire through us, we do a consultation. I'll just walk you through the quick process. We do a consultation with you. It is not me. It is my director of operations, again, delegated to her. And she's much better at it than I am. And so she'll meet with the person, kind of go through, what are you looking for? What's your ideal scenario? So that we can identify what bucket to put you in. Once she's had that conversation and it's determined that, yes, I want to use LiveSquire, I don't want to hire my own employee, then she comes up with a plan for you. Do you need help 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days, etc.? Once we've determined that, those are priced differently. She sends you that pricing, and then you're billed through our payment system. So you don't exchange hands with your assistants. We pay our employees, you pay us.
Great. What about women who just started companies and haven't made the budget to invest in an assistant, or you work for an organization that hasn't provided the budget for you to hire an assistant or a team member to take over work? That's me.
I think that makes me mad. If you work for a company, or you guys have high-level executives in your company and they are asking for help, you need to offer that help to them. So I don't know how to get your bosses on board with things like that, other than I would love to have a conversation with them. But outside of me kind of berating them for that decision, I think, it's hard. If you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant. I mean, that is just the reality. And that's a really hard place to be in. I was in that place for a long time where I didn't have help. And I just had to be hyper organized about my days. And I still am that way. And one of the tricks that I did is the night before I'd plan for my day. I'm a paper and pen person. And so I would type out a Word document. That's how antiquated I am. A whole list of my day, and I would do it in order of the day. And anytime I could see pockets, like say this as an example, ends at 11, my next deal isn't till 2. So I would add in little bullet points of like, I need to make sure to call this person. I need to make sure to email this person back. So my day was really, and still like today is, very planned, including my personal stuff. So I have when I go to the gym on my calendar, I have when I do my meditation and my journaling time. So I think if you don't have an assistant and you are your own assistant, creating a really detailed, structured plan for your day will help you probably accomplish more and feel less overwhelmed by the amount of things you have to do. And then put it on your vision board, hire an assistant.
Yeah, but I think maybe part of what Erica's question is like, is there a place where someone like that is currently their own assistant could hire an assistant for just like a few hours or, something just to help? Is that a possibility so that it's not a huge budget needed?
Sure. Yeah. And I'm not like trying to plug LifeSquire the whole time, but we offer that. So we meet clients exactly where they are. And there are a lot in terms of virtual assistant companies. There's lots of them out there. Obviously, we are not the only option, and they all work that way. It's typically not, you have to use a certain amount, like 20 hours a week or something like that. I think our lowest is a couple hours a week. So we meet people where they are.
Okay. Our next question came from China, and it says, how do you figure out what level of support you need? Did we already answer that? Do you feel like
you did? Yeah, you guys covered that in the last question.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that space creator and that 5 days of journaling is really impactful.
What about delegate? This is from Jess Kyle. What about delegating at work when delegating might mean having to train someone to do something, but you don't have time to train and teach?
Again, I would just go back to that thought that you are going to always be in that place if you don't carve out time. Like, and I don't know if that means getting to your office 30 minutes earlier for a few weeks just to make the time, or staying 30 minutes later, kind of carving out the bare minimum so that you are not always going to be stuck in that place. Because the reality is you have to train people to delegate. Like they're taking on something that inherently well. They're taking on a project or a routine that you've been doing for years probably. And so there is some expectation, or should be, that you're going to have to train somebody. If you lay out a training plan, that's a little bit helpful. You can maybe type it up and kind of give them an overview, see what they do with that if you don't really have an extra 5 minutes of your day every day. But just know that that's an investment. Time is an investment into the long-term effects of having that person be able to help you. It won't always be like that, but in the beginning, you do have to invest the time. There's really, the expectation that you can delegate without training is setting you and that person up for failure.
Thank you. Our next question is from Michelle Brobston. Who manages the assistant? Is it the person they are assisting or someone else in the organization?
That totally is dependent on the organization. So our perspective, if we place a full-time assistant, most of our clients are entrepreneurs. And so they're the owner of the company. And it's really fascinating because we always ask them, like, do you manage any of the other hiring in your organization? No, but I want to be in this hiring process. And we're like, okay, well, you should have the other person that's typically in those conversations with you. And our thought is that person should be, like, if it's an HR division or there's lots of different hierarchies that make sense. But whoever is typically in charge of managing support roles, we would say at least have them be a part of those reviews, have them sit in with you, because entrepreneurs, we're a little bit wacky and hard to control sometimes, and we're all over the place. And so in order to make sure the relationship is successful, we recommend having a second person in that relationship. If you don't have a big enough office to do that, then obviously you would be responsible for managing them. we do have all kinds of tools on how to manage and empower caretakers because it's all we do. And so if it is just you and you feel stressed out about that or overwhelmed about that, I'm happy to provide you guys some of those tools too.
I'm wondering if there are any, tech, online, digital resources or tools that are out there to help with delegating. So I get an intern every summer and that person becomes my personal assistant basically.
That's
and what
nice.
I have done is I've had to just give them my username and password to my email. And that was the only thing I could, that's the only way I could get them into be able to answer my emails for me. Are there other tools that could kind of help with things like that?
With your personal email, no, there's not really a way around that. But outside of that, so one of the big things that we say to help people with delegating and then be trusting that it's getting done. We love any kind of project management software. We are big fans of Trello, but there's all kinds of them, Asana, there's all kinds. We like Trello, it's user-friendly. There's a huge freemium platform that you don't have to pay for a really long time. And there are now so we also have a LifeSquire app that anybody can use in the assistant and executive dynamic, and our job placements use it. And it's kind of a project manager with a little bit of twist specific for assistant relationships. There is also something called Base. That's a new platform specifically for assistants and executives, and that helps with like calendar management and appointment keeping and those kinds of things. But I would say that
what was that again, Valerie? I think I didn't hear what it was called.
Oh, Base.
Okay.
So Base, the LifeSquire app, which is free, and then Trello or something like that. But I would say even beyond those things, we tell all of our assistants that go through our academy every day, like say you're using assistant once a week. So every day that they're with you, send a daily wrap up email to say, here's everything I did today. Here's what I plan to do tomorrow. And here's what I have for the month ahead. Every single time you were with them, our assistants use that LifeSquire app for that. It's because it's much easier. But if you don't have the app or you don't want to use that kind of technology, an email is sufficient. But every day at the same time, have them send you that update. It will create so much trust in a short amount of time because you'll have oversight and you won't be thinking about it all day long.
I see. Okay. So Sophia mentioned in the chat that she uses Superhuman for email. So Erica asked, how does it work? And Sophia said, Superhuman overlays onto your email and gives you shortcuts to respond, reminders to connect, etc. Yeah. Okay. Here, Emma Payne says, not a question, just a comment. Thank you for your authenticity and thoughtfulness in answering these questions, Valerie. Yes.
Oh, you're welcome.
If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review and subscribe to our podcast for future episodes. You can also join the conversation by becoming a VEST member. Go to www.vester.co and apply today.